Welcome to the InStory show. I'm Devorah Spilman, your host, and today I am thrilled to welcome InStory expert Suzanne Carrier. Hi, Suzanne.
Hi, Devorah. Thank you so much for offering this.
Oh, it is my pleasure. So, Suzanne works with clients to align to their authentic blueprint and also to tune into their birth. And we're going to talk about why birth is so important and relevant. So, Suzanne, talk a little bit more about what you do and why it's so important.
Well, I think if, I'm going to start back a little bit. I know trauma is such a key piece in people's development and how it can stop us from moving forward. We don't always recognize experiences in our life as traumatic, but the body does. The body registers all of it. The central nervous system, there's this innate knowledge, the cellular memory. The body remembers all of it. And sometimes we really put some of this information aside because it's not as big as somebody else. It's not, it may not be the divorce, or it may not be some sort of death in the family, but it can be a death to the person. It could be an aspect of yourself that really has deadened in an experience. You have this amazing spirit that is really full of life and joy. Something happens and that just the sail just gets taken right out of it. And that's traumatic for a person. And then their whole focus there, why bother anymore? It doesn't really matter. That none of what I do is important anymore because of this experience, and they may not be able to identify it as that particular experience, but the energy always will bring us back to where we need to go to find how these things get into place.
So as part of the work of kind of figuring out a way to find out where the energy is stuck.
It's not figuring it out, it's letting the energy play itself out. So I kind of so somebody comes in with let's just say we're talking intuition and say, I really want to connect with my creativity. I find that I'm not creative at all. And it's kind of like, okay, so I'll let the person talk a little bit about it. And then it's kind of like having that ball of yarn, and you just kind of take that yarn and let it go. And then eventually the yarn will bring us to where this originating place is, as to where the creativity got dampened. And lots of times that's those lower chakras, whether it's the base or the second chakra, where that creativity lies, and we just lose access to it. And so I let the energy unfold, because if I try to, if I try to think of what the session would be like, it's never anything at all. And I'll sit there with the client and I'll say, God, I never thought we were going there, and it just, the energy has its own voice and we let it speak.
And that's such a great model of trusting your intuition. Like so many of us, when we work with people, we go into that intuitive, channeled kind of place. Okay, but take us back a little, because I know this isn't what you always did your whole life. And I really love having people share a little bit of their stories of how you honored this way of working in the world. Like, what was it like before? And you can tell us a little, like, did you, as a child, did you have these kind of abilities and then did you shut them down?
I think so. I don't remember a lot. Sometimes when people experience trauma, they don't remember a lot of their childhood. I'm one of those kids that doesn't if it wasn't for pictures, sometimes I really would question, did I ever exist? Because I really don't remember a lot of my childhood. And that's usually one of the signs of trauma. And mine was a birth trauma, and how you just really, that piece of the transcendent that you bring into physical form really stayed with me, but I never connected with my physical body. So you can kind of go both ways. You can be in physical form and not connected to the transcendent piece, or you can be so much in the transcendent piece that you're not into your physical body. So I kind of went, I'm going to stay out within the transcendent piece. But I knew, I just knew by looking at people that I knew stuff, but I never really shared a lot. It just didn't feel comfortable. I guess I never felt that safety and security in being able to do that. But it was when I got a lot older, I was like 48, and I went through everything I needed to do as a mom, as a wife, and everything. And then in the other piece that I do in human design, we start looking at when some of the energies change, and Chiron comes in around the age of 48, 50, when it's kind of like, if you've done your spiritual work yet. And I really had no idea of any of that, and just really listened to my intuition, because I quit my regular job and looked at a magazine that had the word chakra in it. And I'm going, how can I go wrong? Even though I have no idea what a chakra is, how can I go wrong? And I really trusted my intuition. I got there and signed up, and the guy says, so do you know what polarity therapy is? And I'm going, well, I'm thinking like, why should I know that? And he says, well, what brings you here? And I'm going, oh, it's the sound of the word. And I've always loved Sanskrit. I've always loved Sanskrit. It's one of the first languages with the Hebrew and stuff. It's those first early languages, and I just loved the sound of them, and that's what did it. And I kept trusting my intuition, that, okay, this is the next piece. This is the next piece. And I never really questioned it. I just did it. So yeah, that's when I really started to tap into it again, was just, yeah, this is where we're going. This is the next piece. And that's it. Yeah.
So I want to just ask you, what do you think allowed you to trust your intuition? Do you know what I mean? Like, a lot of people will feel like, oh, I have an intuitive impulse to do this, but I'm too scared to follow it, or I'm not going to follow it. Can you unpack like the feeling of what allowed you to do that?
I was driven. I was driven. If I had a financial guy look at how much I was investing in my work and what I was bringing in, it would have been close the doors, but that wasn't going to happen. I knew I was going to do it. And the little bit of the challenging part was really figuring out where my intuition was, because for a lot of people, they're more visual, and they see things. I see this, I see that, and I don't see, I hear. So I will be with someone and I hear their energy field talking to me. That's the piece that we unravel. It's kind of like, what's your energy? What's your field telling my field? And I will have a body knowing. And I stopped questioning it, because I knew that, and I guess what's good about the way the work works is I don't have a long dissertation with you. It's kind of like, what's going on? Let's start doing the work. So I don't have a whole lot of background that you've told me that I can say, oh, that's right, she said this, that, or the other thing, because I don't have that backstory. It's kind of like what shows up. And then the verification comes in, like, well, how did you know that? How did you know this happened? How did you know when I was 12, I was abused? How did you know when I was, XYZ, that this happened? And that's when my parents divorced. And it's kind of like, so that's where the energy breaks. That's where that connection stops. So we know the trauma is somewhere in there. And then they start trusting their resources too.
Right. And then the work is part of all this work that so many people are doing, is that you become able to clear it out, all those old traumas, right?
Correct. And there's no re-traumatizing. You just go, okay, that's where it was. Let's move it. Let's clear it. And the ancestors come in too, because some of the stuff is ancestral patterns. Those of us who are probably on this call too are kind of the black sheep of the family sometimes. It was kind of like, oh, what's Suzanne doing now? What's she up to now? But we clear for our family. We clear for our ancestors. We're the ones that really step forward with that lineage to clear. So it's not uncommon that a client comes in and we're doing work for the ancestors too. It's not only the person that's on the table. We're clearing the family, because when that person goes home, their energy is different, and it dissipates through the family. Everybody in the family does better when one person improves, and then the ancestors move along too.
So just super interesting. So I want you to talk a little bit about all the work and interest that you have around birth, and what are we missing here, and what do we need to do to be more connected? It's like, how do you solve the problem at the source rather than cleaning it up downriver?
Correct. And I think this is a perfect opportunity right now. We've got so much chaos going on in the world, and so we take somebody who's going to get pregnant now. Okay. The mom is going to be influenced by what's going on right now. Let's just say they've got money invested in the stock market. They've got a business that they can't open up, lots of different things. The family is going to feel the stress. This mom is going to feel the stress. And if she is pregnant, this baby is not going to know the difference of whether mom is stressed because of me or because of what's going on in the world situations. The only thing this baby is aware of, that mom is under stress. And this is what the imprinting comes. We gestate in this water solution. The water is going to pick up the frequency of what mom's going through. This is what they're in. This is what the baby gets to experience. And we've not taught our moms how to really communicate with an unborn baby. We've not taught our moms to really have a conscious connection with this soul that's up in this cosmic realm that's waiting to come into physical form. You know, we haven't done that. Some people do, but the majority of women do not. And the invitation for me is to really how to work with our parents, to work with our young people, to really get this bond going. And it starts way before, you know, the baby's born. It's got to happen in utero. Baby's got to be conscious of their environment, and mom needs to be very conscious of what she is doing and what her thoughts and feelings and emotions are, because baby will take that on. And you know, things can go really well in utero, but something can happen when everything kicks in for her to go into labor. You know, something can happen in the birthing process. You know, we look at Pitocin, we look at C-sections and what have you. And one of it'll be interesting now too with our kids being all homeschooled. You know, we're looking at the energy of transition. These were kids that are used to a schedule. They used to, you know, you get up at 7 o'clock, you're at school at 8, you do this. This is my schedule. This is what I do. But we've really invited all families to change, because parents aren't necessarily used to being home with their kids either. You know, we're inviting them to leave their jobs to stay home and homeschool their kids. So this is a huge transitional energy. And sometimes the energy of change isn't, so I look at energy as what's weak and what's strong. So the energy of change may be strong, but the energy of transition seems to be the weakest of the energies, because we're transitioning from phase 1 to phase 2 to phase 3. So if someone's had a C-section or interruptions in a birthing process, the transition from a C-section is all of a sudden everything's nice and cozy and warm, and the water feels good, and I've got the right amount of pressure, and gee, nobody told me we were going to do a C-section, and then all of a sudden the water is broken and the pressure really changes. So we go from a really comfortable place to one that is really uncomfortable. We've got had all these adjustments happening that we weren't aware of. So I look at the kids at school, and transition is a really key energy for them, because they really, it's, you know, everybody walks on eggshells. You know, don't upset them. Don't upset them because they don't like this. And I really get curious how much of this is in the birthing process of this really abrupt change. And everything that's happening this week has been really abrupt change. I mean, even last week, you know, last week, none of this was going on like it is now. The kids were still in school last week. Restaurants were still open, you know, and it's going to be really, really interesting. And, you know, even the birthing process has its own way. I mean, it's got its own steps, you know, packing, you know, is baby coming down okay? Is the head moving? Are the shoulders coming through, and this and that? And if anywhere along that stage things get interrupted, again, we're transitioning. Can we transition from one phase to another easily, or do we need full intervention? Do we need forceps? Do we need something else to get the work done? You know, if a baby can't, as an adult, if a baby couldn't be born naturally without the use of forceps, it's kind of like, oh, I can't do it anymore. Someone's going to have to bail me out. Someone's going to have to finish the process for me. Okay, I can start it, but I can't quite finish it. So we start looking at the whole birthing sequence, you know, and how it still applies to your daily life and the traumas that come into play with that.
So super interesting. And so do you find that as you do that work with people like who are already, you know, older, that you can go in and clear some of those old hurts? Because even obviously they're not necessarily conscious. Clearly.
Correct. And it was interesting. The other day I had a client who was adopted, and sometimes adoptions tend to be a little bit more, how do I fit in? How do I belong? And always there's that kind of push-pull, like, do I really want to know or don't I want to know? And you know, there was even a question as to what her birth date was. Nobody really knew. They had a general idea, but didn't really know. And it was interesting as you know, following the energy, this was a baby that was really wanted, but the mom couldn't take care of her, compared to the pregnancy where the baby was not wanted. But the adult doesn't know that. It's still the adoption happened. So when the story starts to unfold of, no, this, you know, you could just see the lightness come in, you know, that oh, I really was wanted after all. And it's such beautiful work. Yeah.
So how do you think what are some of your thoughts for people who are now in these times where we could go into a lot of worry or fear? And it's funny because it almost made me think about the whole birth metaphor for what we're going through now as a world
Exactly.
in a way.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And the more chaos that, energy attracts like. And the more we get into the realm of fear, doubt, and worry, we're on a lower vibrational frequency. And, it's if we could just change it like that, we all would. So one of the tools that I really like just to bring you inward is to just really go into that place of centeredness and to really get away from the chaos. And you can be in chaos, but if you can, like bring in a sound, bring in a primordial sound, a chant or something, it just brings that energy inward, and you're really able to regroup and not allow the distractions of the outside world to really get the best of you. It will change. I'm not sure which direction is, but we know every day is changing. But and I really got the value of that when I was doing some silent retreats, and there's different ways of getting into a meditative state. But the feminine, which is is the receptive one. It's not about how you sit. It's not about how you're breathing. It's not about any of that. It's allowing the primordial sound to do its work on you. And it's really just to invite that stillness in. And it's not about the mind. You're not telling the mind to step out, because it's not going to.
I'm looking at that amazing crystal bowl behind you, and I'm wondering, in my crazy spontaneous style, if you could lead us in a moment of that centered stillness.
Okay, sure. Let's see,
you can probably take that. You can probably unplug the headset for this and just use your computer for it. Just unplug your headset. And I love to model being a little spontaneous, catching the moment and trusting that. And so we're gonna listen and see if we can hear it. So everybody, go ahead and close your eyes and begin to notice your breath and stillness, and see if we can hear the sound of the crystal. Let's start with your breath. So even if you can't hear this, I'm not sure we can hear the sound of the crystals. So Suzanne, come back, because I don't think it's, it was worth a try. We didn't try it ahead of time, but I don't think the sound is picking up so strongly. There we go. So just take this moment, whether you can hear the crystals or you can't, to pull yourself into your center, to ground into the earth and to feel that stillness. It's hard to bring that energetic vibration over the airwaves, and we're trying to bring it over the airwaves, but I don't think and you might have had your headphones still plugged in, so that might be why it didn't pick up as well. But
so did any of it pick up?
A little bit. But the point that I want to make is find a way to get yourself into that stillness that Suzanne's talking about. That there really is so much power. And the reason why you do is because there's so much power in what you've said. Mm-hmm. And if you have something that makes a tone, use that. But if you don't, you can make a tone yourself or whatever it takes. But what you're saying about getting into that place of stillness so that we're not pulled into reactive. Mm-hmm. Right? Isn't that what you're finding?
And and everybody's going to react or we don't want anybody to react. It's about responding and going, okay, that's what that is, and not allowing it to really take you off your center so much that you really become unstable. how do you stay stable when everything around you is kind of in a whirlwind.
Right, right. And I think that's powerful, like in these times, but in all times, like
Yeah.
there's almost always going to be something that's going to
Hmm.
try to pull you off your center.
Yeah.
um and so, Suzanne, I would love for you to talk a little bit about like what your free gift is and how it works and what's important about it, because I want to help people do some of the stuff you're talking about to actually make a shift.
Okay. Okay. So the free gift is some information on the mantras. Everything that I do is based on frequency. Everything that you do is based on frequency. All your thoughts, feelings, and emotions are based on frequency. So for me, it's kind of like where are you at? If you're on a low frequency, again, your life is going to be more difficult. When we can raise the frequency, when we can bring in the consciousness of the God element, and whatever that is for you, it's not about a church or it's about being connected to the bigger picture. It's about being connected to the universe, to God, and this is what the primordial sounds do. They bring us home, and home is where the home is in the heart. It's in that heart space. It's not going to be in the head. It's not going to be anywhere else. It's going to be in your heart. And this is what these mantras are designed to do: is how do we get home? How do we experience that inner joy? How do we experience inner peace? How do we just connect? Well, like the Gayatri. The Gayatri is all about the divine sun. Brings us home. This is where home is for us. And it's nothing that you need to do. It can take you as little as 15 minutes. Just just to breathe, sit, listen to it. If you can find most of these on YouTube, it does, and allow it to meditate you, and then you will fall into that entrainment also.
So what it is it's mantras that people can use,
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yes.
and so you read it and then you say it in your head.
You can, and I will probably a lot. My intention is the to record it in a way. It hasn't come out quite right yet, but record it in a way that if you want to listen to that, you can also.
Okay, because these tools I think are just so crucial, because we're not given these tools generally in our world,
No, we're not.
right? And and I'm thinking about people who are not just parents but grandparents who might have kids who or might have grandkids, and how we can sort of, like, if people connect with you, you have how you can get aligned, and then how you can help the next generations behind you align, which then helps the next generations coming forward align.
Right.
um, and so I want you to say a little bit more about working with people who are already older and how
Okay.
that helps them, and then how they can help the next, like their
Okay.
people in their family.
Okay. So we look at, like Devorah was saying, so many generations, and I can work with the 80 some odd year old woman who is ready to train, who's not ready to die yet, but at the end of finishing up most of her life and still not feeling comfortable with who she is, knowing that there is still some unresolved issues that she's got going on, and that is not how she wants to end her life. And the piece of consciousness is so key in everything that we do, and it's um, it's not limited to any age group whatsoever. But once we can identify, or at least pinpoint, okay, we're looking at neglect, we're looking at abandonment, we're looking at something, it has a whole pattern, it has a whole sequence of things that unravel. And for a lot of my clients, it's really the pattern of self-forgetting. We've been so busy trying to please everybody else because we thought we were unlovable.
Mm-hmm.
And we give our power away to everybody else because obviously we know they know better, and we really forget to trust our intuition. We never even have a chance to go there because, well, we know that Mary must know better about me than I do. And if she says I need to go, then I'm going to go. If I need to do this, they're telling me to do this. And especially in this day and age where we're getting so bombarded with information, what is your right action? What is right for you to do? Not what's right for me, not what's necessarily right for you is going to be right for somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really aligning to that. And we've got some tools, we've got a human design chart, which is going to show us different energy centers that are open. And again, those centers will carry the energy of sometimes self-doubt. People say, oh, they're just too emotional. It just has the effect that we've got an open center that picks up emotions differently than somebody else. And, somebody may beat themselves up forever going, well, everybody said I was too emotional. I was too emotional. No, you've got an open emotional center. It doesn't make you that emotion. Just be aware of it, so we can help identify things. And the person whose mind is always running and running and racing, what does that look like in their design? Align to what is you, not somebody else. And, everybody's got different ways of receiving information. We identify what your way of receiving information is and then move from there. So it's about continuously strengthening what is yours and letting go of what is not yours.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's so important. I've been talking a lot about how do you lead in your lane. And I know that the work that you do, it clears away this unbelievable hard stuff very quickly and easily, and it allows people to get into that true essence of who they are. So everybody, what I want you to do is click the free gift, try using some of the mantra meditations, and then go into the Facebook group and let us know what happened. Like, did you do it? Did it work? And then reach out to Suzanne and see what does that mean to be aligned? What's the next step? Here it is, people. We have a moment now where you can make a real shift. So if you get your energy cleared and then you can turn around and help the next person, we're going to make a big difference.
Oh, big time. So my lane, if it had a street sign, would be basically, I'm all about revolution. And this is the perfect time for revolution because we're finding that a lot of things are not working anymore. Things that used to work just are not working anymore. So with revolution, it's kind of like we're going to tear it down, rebuild it. And the other piece that is the lane would say, is there joy in your life or not? If you're not experiencing joy, what needs to shift? What's continuously showing up in your life that is preventing you from accessing that joy? So those are my two lanes.
I love that. So get in Suzanne's lane, grab her gift, align with her, because here's the thing, you can clear everything from birth to where you are now, and then that joy is going to be more accessible. Your intuition is going to be more accessible. I know, all this stuff is just the coolest stuff ever.
It is.
And so to wrap up, share, since you're one of the InStory experts, share like maybe a highlight or something that how InStories helped you, and then a few words of inspiration to leave everybody with.
Okay. So InStory has been really, has been the catalyst for me to really go in and find out what am I all about? What am I really here to do? And to get that word out. The piece of consciousness is so key because I think a lot of us grew up in an environment where we were not very conscious, and we did a lot of things that, looking back now, I think we would do differently. And how can we help our future generation coming in, especially in this time of chaos? What's going on, and how can we best support our next generation? And again, the ones that are older, bring them back. And you've created a platform for me to be able to do that. So thank you.
It's cool because most of us in the InStory way, we're over 50 and we are so on it, right? Like
having a great time finally. Finally having a good time. Yeah.
And the other thing is that here we are with this whole online work already that so many of us are doing, and now those of you watching, you can feel an encouragement to use this online domain and this intuitive domain to start to bring yourself forward. So super cool. So leave us with a few last words of inspiration as we wrap up.
Oh, I guess the biggest one is I would invite each and every one of us to be who we're designed to be, not try to be somebody else, and really find out what that is. If you're not really sure, find out what that is and live your best life, and we're not going to be this person or that person. I'm designed to be Suzanne, and I need to be Suzanne. And if I'm not being Suzanne, then I'm not being the best I can be at this time.
Right. Yep. I love it. I always say it's like find your story so that you can bring that out in the world. Suzanne, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Devorah, and thank you, everyone.
And everybody, as I always say in farewell, remember to go out in the world, share your story, live your purpose, and be a blessing.